What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gulls Nest. As always, Adi84 here. My trusty baseball sidekick, Adam the Mallett,
Hello,
right next
hello.
to me with his sriracha hot chili sauce.
That's right. After we just did an interview from another show. Should have changed.
There you go. You want to change something wardrobe? I do want to say, off subject of baseball, I did try sriracha for the first time a couple weeks ago, and it's actually quite good.
Oh, it's addictive. I put it in everything. Like I put it in like when I'm mixing rice, I put it like I eat it with chips, I eat it with everything.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure how would I react because I'm not into like the Asian spicy sauces.
Hmm.
And but then I did some research, and the sriracha peppers are actually harvested in California, which is interesting enough. So
Oh, they are right now, but that's a whole other thing. We'll talk about that tomorrow
yeah,
morning.
there was a situation. Yeah, I was doing a deep dive on sriracha.
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah. We were saving it for the other show. We could do a whole
Yeah.
do a whole half hour of sriracha.
Yeah.
But we're here to talk about Newport Gulls baseball. Perhaps I don't know for a fact. Maybe they do have sriracha at the
Maybe they
snack
do.
bars
Maybe.
at the stadium. I mean, I would hope so because that would add a little pizzazz to any flavor for your hot dog, for your fries, for your you know, whenever you
Yeah,
eat at the ballpark, popcorn,
that's for sure.
right?
You can put it in anything.
So, so last week on the show, we left off by kind of going over the Hall of Fame inductees, and we covered the coach, and we covered Nick Lima.
Lima.
He was the guy, started the high school kid, bringing his stuff to the stadium to broadcast, and then now is a Newport Gulls Hall of Famer, so which is pretty cool. And obviously, Coach Coombs, who we talked to, a few weeks ago, and we talked about last week, and watched his video, and everything was pretty impressive. So that was two quality guys right there.
Hmm.
This week, we're going to move on to actual players who played on the team. And we're going to talk about a couple players who were inducted a few weeks ago as well. And the first one we're going to talk about is Blaze Salta. Now, Adam, did you've looked at some of this information on Blaze, right?
I know he made it to Double A in the Tigers organization. I know he seems to I found some videos on him on YouTube talking in other interviews. I like to go beyond the stat sheets we just have. I really want to know, about a lot of these players. And he seems
Right.
to have a really firm grasp like on the game, like the ins and outs behind the scenes of players, on teams. And but I know now he's an agent.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but yeah, I mean, with a name like Blaze, I feel like you gotta be a
Right. I feel like with
baseball.
certain names of certain people, you're destined to what you're gonna do. Like that's a baseball name right there, right? It's
Yeah,
like I feel like the one syllable first names. I like a good quality,
yeah,
baseball player, right? Like that's the type of guy, right? So, um, I was gonna say a Southern guy, but he's from Michigan. So,
yeah.
um,
He actually wanted to play for the Tigers. Like
right.
he made it into the organization. So I guess dream fulfilled. Good
I
for him.
believe his grandfather played for the organization. If I remember correctly from stuff up, like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was I think this is like a family thing, the Tigers organization from, which would make sense if his grandfather did play for the Tigers and he did grow up in Michigan, since his parents would have been up there at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, um, but he was one of the guys that stood out to me when I was doing the research for the Hall of Fame. Just for the type of guy he was he was a big guy from Michigan State University.
Mhm.
He they described him as the Babe Ruth or the MVP of the league that year, like just carrying the team, slugging balls. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty impressive.
That is quite a name to be given. Like, honestly, I would not want to be given that name because there's nowhere to go but down after being named that. Like, I feel like that would ruin me. It's like, oh man, now everybody knows the cat's out of the bag. I'm not good. And now, like, I don't know, the pressure.
So he ended up on the Gulls on a limb, basically. From what I understand from the video I watched and some of the research I did, he was planning on being drafted to the MLB prior to joining the Gulls, and from what I understand, the draft didn't go exactly how he was planning on going, and he was kind of a last minute roster signer to the Gulls for that season. I think it was it 2014?
2014.
Yes,
Yeah, he crushed it.
2014. Yeah.
He crushed that year.
So grabbing his numbers here from the 2014. This is from Baseball References. 38 games, 163 plate appearances. Well, let's see, plate appearance. That's PA, right? Plate appearances.
No, at bats he's got 144, but yeah, plate appearances is 163. Yeah,
How can you have? How can you plate appearances not be the same as your at bats?
that's a good question. Did the walks count?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, you're right. You're a walk that takes away from an at bat, right?
I
Yeah,
believe,
because a walk doesn't go against your average.
right? That's what I'm guessing. Well, how many walks does he
Well,
have?
that's a good question. Let's see.
He's got 17.
He's on balls.
He's got wait. One. Oh wait, no, he's one stolen base. Wow, sorry everybody.
He's on
8.
balls 8. So, but 8 plus 144 is not 163, is it? No.
Hold on. When I highlight plate appearances on when available, we use actual plate appearance and play-to-play game. Otherwise, estimated using at bats, walks, hit by pitch, sacrifice fly, and
Could be a hit by play. Yeah, that could stuff that could factor into. Okay, so let's call it 144 at bats. That's I mean, there you go. 49 hits, pretty good. Consider it's on base. It's a bat average is 340, which is pretty damn good.
And only 19 strikeouts. He only struck out 19 times. I will say though, for a guy not to throw shade at Blaze, because I mean he's a guy that with an A of Blaze, I think big power hitter. He had 11 home runs.
Yeah.
I just when I hear that name, I'm just thinking like 30, but that's not possible.
11 home runs, but I mean, would you say home runs? How many?
11.
And no, 9 home runs.
No, 9.
9 home runs.
Yeah.
11 doubles.
Yeah. No, I mean he hit batted 340. I mean he had a really good year. And
you said he had stolen bases too. He had 1 stolen base. It's unusual for a big guy to have stolen base like that. But yeah. So his summer for the Newport Gulls was kind of like a whim. They didn't think he was coming. He shows up. He basically becomes the MVP for the team, slugging like crazy through the season. They described him as a guy with big hands, a big guy, and a heartfelt baseball player, which, someone who is 6'5" and 245 pounds, that explains it right there. I mean, that's pretty.
That's not somebody you want to meet in a dark alley. Who's
that
big. No, that's a big guy. Yeah.
He participated in the longest game in Gulls history too. It was a 17th inning game. It was a multi-home run game for him too. So 9 of those home runs came from that actual game, which is pretty cool. That's something that goes down in Gulls history right there. Your ability to first of all, 17 innings is a long time to play baseball. You know what I mean?
Oh God, yeah.
A couple home runs in that game is pretty impressive too.
I think at some point you're wanting just even if the other team wins, you don't care. You're like, oh my God, I just want this to end. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that story we always tell about like that. Was it a 34 inning game, the longest game in baseball history? It was Pawtucket, right? So yeah. And his teammates looked at him as a pure leader for the clubhouse. And someone with his ability, which he was supposed to get drafted, I don't know the whole technicalities of it because I could be wrong. Because he ended up going back to Michigan State the following year. He played in 2015. He did end up going with the Tigers farm system. He played the 2015 season on the rookie league. And how many games did he play? He played 36 games on the Tigers rookie down in Lakeland, which is pretty cool. So, year out of college, you're already playing professional ball. And then he went up to he moved around a little bit. So that was that was rookie league. Then he played low ball A in Connecticut. In 2016, I wonder if I might have actually seen this guy play.
He's ranked number 1 all time with 55 doubles.
Is that crazy? That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. Doubles aren't nowadays. Doubles are pain in the ass to get. You know what I mean?
And I know everyone's got a bigger arm. Everyone's got everyone's getting to the ball faster. It seems. I mean,
and you got to be faster because you got to be able to drive past first base, and you got to make them like at the moment you're almost hitting first base. You have to commit if you're gonna go for that double or not.
Yeah,
And you better be faster than that guy in outfield throwing the ball in. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's true. That must feel nice though. I would love to hold a record for something,
all right.
you know. Who cares? I mean, something positive.
So Blaze made it up until looks like double A
Yep.
Detroit. Is that what you said? Yeah.
Hmm.
And then he kind of bounced around AA ball in Erie and Lakeland A plus. You know, I think if you just make it to the minor leagues, it's a success as it is by itself because
Yeah.
we talked
Yeah.
about this before. You think of the best guy you have in high school, think of the best guy in your high school's division, and think of the best guy in the state, right? And even that guy may not make it to the pros. So,
Yeah.
but so you said he's an agent now.
Yeah. I got that. He's a player agent.
Okay.
I don't know what that entails. I just know that's what his gig is now. That's what I was able to. I did find an interview with him on YouTube,
Yeah.
talking to
What
some
was
more
that
people.
like?
It was fine. It just seems like just talking about, how some of these guys, like the ins and outs of, the intricacies more so of the game, and like kind of what goes on behind the scenes in terms of players. That's all. That's kind of more so what I got out of it in the time I had to
Yeah.
research him.
So this is what the Gulls had posted on their Hall of Fame. It said it was the summer of 2014 that put Blaze into the Newport Gulls record books with a 340 batting average, 144 at bats, 49 hits, 11 doubles, and 9 home runs, and broke the single season RBI record of 42. Pretty cool, right? Um, was a man amongst the boys, saved his biggest hits for the best important parts of the game. Um, Clutch guy, basically, overall. He was the type of guy you wanted at the plate when you needed him the most. And it seems like he at that multiple home run game that went 17 innings, he was the guy that they pretty much kept the team kept going strong.
Yeah.
And it was at first since he was labeled as a first baseman. Would I say catcher somewhere? I read that. Oh, he played. He was a DH, first base, DH, and catcher, which seems to go with most. I think most guys are DH, first base, and catchers. I think you start as a catcher, you make your way to first base as the knees start hurting you a little bit, and then you end up being a DH. That seems to be the professional way of going, right? And when you look at
Yeah.
pros, right?
I feel like over the years I've gained so much more respect for catchers as I've gotten older. When you're younger, you think, oh, that's cool, whatever. You catch the ball, and then you know what. But then you get older and you start having wear and tear on your own joints, and you realize how could anybody still do this and be productive? You know?
I talked to a lot of older men who are catchers, like guys in their 50s and 60s who did this like in high school and college, and their knees are shot. They have fake knees. It's just because you figure you're in that position, you know, for like what 60 seconds, how many
Yeah, it's
times
not
a game,
natural.
right?
Yeah, the up
You
and
know,
down, the
if
wear
it,
and
if
tear.
you're right, if there's like 150 pitches in a game for 150 times at 60-second intervals, you're in that crouching position, right? And you get to bounce up. And I gave it to catchers. I always thought it's actually the only position in baseball I've never played was catcher. I played throughout my small career in Little League. I played every position except for catcher. And
I did it one game. It was a mess.
terrible. It was probably the worst baseball situation in your life because when it was probably the same for you when you played. It was always the biggest and chubbiest guy they put as catcher. They figure it was like goalie, right? You put the most mass behind the plate. In reality, you need to be like the most athletic guy to be catcher. And
Yeah, even though
as
you
you
just
get
sit there.
right, because like
Yeah.
you're the guy you're probably the guy moving the most in the entire defense when you're on the field, right? Because they're outfielders that kind of just shifting around and stuff. But
I'm a pitcher.
but the pitcher too, but the pitcher's on the regular, he's getting his
It's
rotation. All right.
true.
The pitcher's probably using the most amount of energy in a single position time to throw the ball, right? But as a
Yeah,
catcher, you're constantly moving around. You're up every play. You're down on your knees. You're up. You got runners on base. You're looking left or right, right?
it's true.
You're probably, I mean, which makes sense why most, when it's rare to have a captain in baseball. Well, when they are the captain, typically they are a catcher because I feel like we go back to like Veritek, he controls the game. You're controlling the pace of the game. You knowing exactly what's going on and everything like that.
Yeah.
And which I think is probably the toughest position to play. Not to mention, if you're a catcher that can hit for power, Now you're thinking, I mean, so well, that's the thing too. So like the person who should know the game the best on the field is probably the catcher because you're studying the opposing team. You know exactly where their weaknesses is, where you want to pitch the ball and stuff. And you, as if you have the ability to hit, you take that information when you go to the plate, and you know, like, so if you know everything about the team, you know things about the pitches too. I guess at a certain point, right? You kind of doing your homework and you're figuring how to hit the ball. It's like,
It's true.
just think of those great. It seems like. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like catches these days, they're more the analytic guys. Than they're not worried. They're always batting in the 7 or 8 and ninth hole these days. There's really no power hitting catches anymore.
It's true.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's something else, but it's from my
It does feel that way. Or if they were, they started out that way. Now that, like you said, they're a first baseman. They're somewhere else
yeah.
now.
It's like their analytics and their knowledge in the game is more important than their ability just to hit the ball. But like I feel like back in the day, like the the Carlton Fisk days and stuff like
Yeah.
that, right? Like the
Joe Mauer was, and then he moved to first, but
wow, yeah.
he was a catcher in the big leagues for a while. Pudge Rodriguez.
Pudge, yeah, yeah. I guess that's probably one of those things too. Like as you get older too, like if you want to have a long career, it's probably beneficial for you to get off your knees and get the first base or just be a DH. Now that every league has a DH, I think it kind of gave catchers that may have been done uh maybe a few more years left in their career, right? Because you figure, all right, I can, there's only 15, 16, what was that 32 teams in baseball now? I can't remember. Yeah, 32 teams in baseball. So, I only had 16 teams I could choose from, but now I can choose from no, actually there's only 30 teams in baseball. What am I talking about? Right? Am I wrong? Yeah, there's
No, I
30
think you're
teams.
right. 32. Yeah.
No, there's 30 because they moved Houston over to the American League.
30. Yes, 30.
Yeah, it's 30,
Right.
right? Yeah,
30.
15 and 15. Yeah, I get confused
Yeah,
because for the
30.
longest time it was an off, and that was a 16 and 14, remember? And now it's 15 and
Yes.
15. So, yes.
Exactly.
So it gave you 15 other teams you could choose to play for, basically being able to DH in both leagues now, which I'm totally against the DH altogether, but that's a story for another time. As you know, my feelings on the designated hitter in that rules and how much I hate it.
I know.
But I digress. So Blaze Salter, he's a number 3 guy we had covered for the Newport Gulls Hall of Fame 2014 catcher, first baseman, Michigan State University, and the first actual player we're talking to, Detroit Tigers, which is kind of ironic because we talked about Coach, he played for the Tigers as well, and he still lives in Lakeland, Tiger Country, down there in Florida, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
So now the next guy we want to talk about is someone you found very interesting, some of the stuff you've been looking into.
Yeah, Mark Appel.
Mark Appel, yeah. So
Yes.
Mark Appel, 6'4" from Texas, 16th round pick out of high school, pretty impressive, hardworking. Long tosser the length of the outfield to work his arm strength. This is something I picked up on the video when I was doing some research on him. He would go out in the outfield and just throw the ball from left field to right field during warm-ups just to get his arm going.
Well, actually, correction. He was drafted 15th round by the Tigers first. Then he turned that down.
I
Then
see.
went to Stanford. Then he was drafted first round, like 8th overall by Pittsburgh. And then he was drafted first round, first overall by the Astros.
Oh, okay. First
Yeah.
round, first overall. Really? Okay. Well, it's 60. That's 15th. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Okay, so
Yeah,
that was the first thing. Yes.
Wow. I mean, like I said, he was a Boris client when I dug into him.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, he showed some pretty big flashes of stuff, and he's just someone I would love to talk to because he was more so someone I would love to know like the psychological effects of that kind of weight.
yep.
Like you read some articles, like I was reading some articles about, oh, like the first round, first overall pick, he was traded, he was traded at one point, and it's like that with that kind of title. First, is there like more pressure you put on yourself because people look at you as like, oh, you're the first round first? Is that like it must psychologically,
Absolutely.
do something? And it's like I always wonder if some of these players in any sport, like, would you have been better off like if you were drafted second round instead of first round because of just the amount of weight that gets put on you for being called the first round, first overall pick?
It could be, especially when you drafted him many times. Like he was in his junior year and his senior year, he was drafted, and he obviously was a standout player. I mean, when he was on the team, he was throwing 98 miles per hour. Can you imagine
Yeah.
that in a collegiate league? A bunch of college kids you're throwing almost 100 miles per hour. How do you
Yeah.
hit
Oh
that? Like,
God.
I don't
No, you
understand. Like,
can't. You close your eyes and swing and hope for the best.
I
That's
mean,
all
that's
you
what
can
it is,
really
right?
do. Yeah, yeah.
It's funny because like at the end of the day, it's just like, how do I? I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to find his stats here for when he was on the Gulls. Wait, do you know what year he was on the Gulls? I'm trying to.
He was on the Gulls in where at?
2010. Yeah, 2010. Here it is.
Yeah, he finally made it up a couple years ago to
Yeah,
the
so he
majors.
actually, it says according to Baseball References, he actually was brought up by he was on the Phillies, his last team. He was actually brought up for a major league game. Um, he has no wins, no losses, and he has looks like 6 games he played for the Phillies in 2022.
Yeah, he was up in 2022.
Yeah, with an ERA of 174. So you made it all the way up to the majors, which is pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
it just sucks that like it's obvious that injuries were a factor because I know he recovered from an injury. Which it's always it's kind of sucks. I mean, to see that he had the stuff, like he had
Yep.
flashes of the stuff, and it would have been awesome to see somebody. It's always awesome when you see somebody that has the stuff to be able to um, excel in that. And it's just like I mean, his career isn't. He made it to the majors. Like it's not a failure at all. It's just
Yeah.
it was on the cusp though of I feel like something that could have been even bigger if things moved in a different direction. And that's why I find him like extremely interesting.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's just like you're so close to.
Like, can you imagine
Yeah.
that? Like, first round, first overall pick.
Right.
You just out of out of all the players that were eligible to be drafted, you were the first round, first overall. Like, that's nuts.
And he was the pitcher of the year in college baseball.
Yeah,
Yeah, as
yeah.
well. So it says right here. So the summer following playing for the Gulls, he was actually part of Team USA.
Yep.
Played for them, and they actually had a scrimmage game against the Gulls. The following summer. So that would have been the summer of 2011, I believe. Um, that he came back to the field. And from what I understand, there was like a standing ovation. Everyone was welcoming him back. It was great to have him back. Seeing someone who once played for you now, off to larger things, which is, always nice to see
Yeah.
when you're, at that level of the game. But I mean, I'm looking at the teams he played for. Now, we talked about this multiple times about traveling, playing in the minors, different city, different nights,
Mm,
like I mean, this is it right here. So he went to college. He went to Stanford for college, and it looks like he was out in 2013 was his last season. Um, Quad Cities, Tri Cities, Corpus Christi, Lancaster, Salt River. These Fresno. These are all. Fresno
yeah.
was he made up to AAA in Fresno, which is pretty cool. And Corpus Christi was a AA. Lee Valley, which I've seen play before. It's the it's a AAA team. Um, and then obviously he was down, and he brought down to the Phillies rookie league in 17. It was probably an injury, I would imagine. That was probably why he went back down there, and worked his way back up.
Yeah.
Red and Lee Valley. So he bounced around the Phillies organization for let's see how many years now. From 2000. Well, he
He
was
was
for
traded in
Houston,
2015, yeah,
right? So yeah, so right. 15 he was
to
traded
the
to Philly,
Phillies.
but he was originally of the Houston organization. He was there for a cup of coffee basically in their
Yeah,
system.
near the shoulder. I'm reading his Wikipedia right now. Um, but I know in 2023 he did re-sign with the Phillies on a minor league deal, but his ERA across 6 games was around 11, and he had to have like arthroscopic procedure on his elbow done. So
Yeah,
that's pretty much what it does. And when you get older, I'm sure too. I mean, he's not old by any standards. He's 32, but
32, right? Yeah.
he's also at that age too where you don't want to keep bouncing around so much. I'm sure. You want to have a family and kids. I understand
Right.
that.
Right. And, at a certain point in your career, you got to make a decision if you're going to do this. If you're not going to play, are you going to go into the coaching? Are you going to go into front office, or are you going to just, say bye to baseball? You got to make a choice at some point. But I
True.
mean, he had it all going for him. He was NECBL top prospect, all in NECBL first team NECBL All-Star Game starting pitcher, NECBL co-leader in wins 6, and NECBL Pitcher of the Week. Like I said, the following summer, he played for Team USA. They actually went to Condine's Field to play a scrimmage game. And according right here on June 29th, 2022, Mark made his major league debut with the Philadelphia Phillies, and he's currently living in Texas right now. So, oh, he has almost my birthday too. He's a couple days shy. Many years.
Almost
Day wise,
closing in on a
pretty
decade.
close. Yeah, we're about a decade apart. Give it a little less, but don't put me up that old, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny. It looks like he's from California, and we were talking about the Southeast on a different episode of Mike, and about how we seem like the Southeast produces so many baseball players. California produces a hell of a lot of baseball players too. You notice that, like, if you look at like where guys are from, I believe it was the 2002 Anaheim Angels, where I think like 9 players grew up within like 20 miles of Anaheim Stadium or something crazy like that.
Well, when you think about it, it makes sense too, because when it's warmer, you're outside more to do things,
Mhm.
right? So that's kind of what my take on it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too. It's like I think, like we were saying, like I think some families will move their kids to um warmer climates or climates in which you could play the game more often. Like Massachusetts, in reality, you can play baseball from maybe late April to, if you're lucky, late October, right? So you get like a 6 months basically. You can't do crap between November and March unless you do indoor like batting cages and stuff like that. But to get in the field to stuff like that, it's just impossible. You can't do it. It's too cold
Sure.
outside. You don't want to, we always make fun of baseball players saying like, they don't play in the rain. If it's too cold, they complain and stuff. But like, reality is like it's a summer game, and like if you're living in Massachusetts, you're not out there in June or I mean January throwing a ball when it's 20 degrees outside. Like it just your mechanics and everything will be off. Everything will be
Sure.
completely different. The way you hold the ball, the way you're able to stance your body, like it's like the extreme cold sucks. But like I think playing baseball like in the middle of the summertime, like stay somewhere down like I don't know, stuff down like in Atlanta in
Mm.
July when it's 110 degrees outside. I think that's probably a little bit harder to do. I think I'd rather I don't know, would I rather play cold or rather play hot? I always
Oh, I'd rather play hot any day of the week. The feel of I don't care if it's a wooden bat, not aluminum. The feel of the ball
yeah.
hitting the bat
Well, that's
wrong,
true.
it hurts like hell.
Or even
It's
just
like
like
catching a brick.
right, it's like just picture how much it hurts when you like whack your hand or your finger when it's cold compared, you
Yeah,
know what I mean? It's just
it's like catching a stone thrown at you. It's just not nice. No.
yeah, and imagine being a catcher and like it's 30 degrees outside and like guys throwing heat at you. I mean that's gonna
Oh,
be it's gonna be like someone's hitting you with like a hammer every single time that ball hits the glove, right?
yeah, no
It's gonna be
thanks.
pretty painful. But yeah, I just think that being able to just make like the two guys we just talked about making to the minor leagues, Blaze and Mock, that alone is qualifying enough for, I would say, a pretty successful baseball life. Not necessarily going far in the majors, but you accomplished basically what you set out to do. You wanted to make the pros, right? No one knew you're going to be the greatest. Injuries happen. You're not going to be the next.
And if Mark Appel was smart, I mean, he was a first round, first over pick off, which means he probably got a nice little signing bonus that he
Probably
probably invested
right.
very nicely. And
Which
none of these guys are crying poor, I'm sure. You know what I mean? You made it to the majors, you got a contract for something, and you probably, hopefully, invested it wisely. You know,
you would hope so, but as we know in professional sports, that's not always the case. But we don't know Mark. We'd love to have him on the show, though.
oh, I'd love
Mark Blaze. I'd like to talk to both these guys because I would love to be able to dig my teeth in a little bit more of the whole process. We know we're just looking at it from the outside, looking in, playing, college ball, collegiate summer leagues, and then getting into the minors and stuff. But we don't know, like, what's the process like. I've had a couple conversations with some minor league guys that made it, worked with a couple back in the day at the bar. And to get their perspective on stuff, and it's very, very intriguing. The whole system, man, being early 20s, just traveling around places you don't know. You know,
Okay.
how would we
Fun.
survive, Adam? It would be crazy.
It would be. Would be broke.
I don't think I could handle myself.
I don't think so either.
But we are gonna reach out to Mark and Blaze because really would like to talk to them on the show. We could probably do an episode on both of them. Just
That'd be
picking
great.
their mind. I would love to get into some information about them, further than what further than Newport, but just in general. I think it'll be beneficial for the Skulls podcast to get in depth in some of their former players because that's you know the Gulls were a foundation for these players at some point early in their career to bring them to a point where they are now, or where they were when they, retired from baseball, which is pretty cool. So, you know, what's that? Is that your phone? I hear
Oh,
some
here,
noise I hear some noise in the background.
it ain't here.
Perhaps
Is it a
aliens.
TV? Is it a
I don't know.
TV?
And I'm picking up my headphones, which is even weirder because I can't even pick up any audio. So it's not from my it's
I don't know. I don't know what it
it
is.
sounded like an alien
There's a TV in
invasion.
the living room, but I don't know why you'd be able to hear that.
Yeah, no, I
If
wouldn't have been
I'm
able to
picking up things and slamming things, I've been picking up and slamming things in here when we've been talking. You haven't heard it, so
haven't heard it.
do you hear this?
No.
You don't hear that knocking?
Nope.
Okay, that's weird.
Do you think this broadcast is being taken over by the baseball gods there? This is how they want us to end it. They're like, we're gonna take over this broadcast of the
Apparently.
Gulls. But all right, so that concludes this week's update on the Hall of Famers coming in. Blaze Salter and Mike Appel. Anything else you want to add to conclude this episode, Mr. Mallett?
Nope, that's all I got.
All right. And next week's episode, we're going to talk about two more plays on the team and break that down. And then we're going to be almost to the point where our rosters are available, where we're going to really dig our
Nice.
teeth. I feel that when that happens, me and you are going to probably have a stack of statistics on our desk and kind of dissecting these plays because we'll get to know these players inside and out before the season even starts. How's that sound?
For sure. Sounds good.
All right. And as always, if you guys have any comments or any questions you want to add, please leave the comments below on this video or at all the videos that matter, and we'll get back to you, or someone in the organization will get back to you and answer the questions for you. And until then, I'm Audi84. That's Adam Mallett, and we'll see you guys next week on the Gulls Nest. See you later.
Later.
Bye.